Our next guest is a musician, filmmaker, and the co-founder of Patreon. Please welcome Jack Conte to the South by Southwest studio. Jack, thank you for being here. We're live for the first time in 3 years, not 2. My boss, Linda, says I keep saying 2 because the pandemic has flattened the timeline, but it's the first time we're live with people in 3 years.
Oh God, I thought it was 2 as well.
Yeah, see, okay, Linda, I'm not the only one, right?
But it feels like 5.
Time is a flat circle, right? It seems like 5, it's a pandemic, but the festival's up and coming, there's people here. How do you feel just being out and about with the people, seeing a crew, talking to folks?
It's, of course, so much better. Yeah.
More than the Zoom calls.
Oh God, so much better. Yeah, it feels great. It's a shock to the system in the best kind of way.
It's, you are a musician, but you are now best known as the founder of Patreon. I love a good origin story, and you have a fantastic origin story. Please tell the folks how Patreon actually started.
Oh, okay.
2013. Take Patreon
all the way back?
Yeah, let's take the DeLorean all the way back.
Oh God. Okay.
2013.
So I'm a YouTuber. I've been a YouTuber for a decade and a half, and I was working on my solo record. My wife was working on her solo record. She was out and about touring the world. Left me home alone to go crazy by myself, which is what I did. I ended up, I'd made an EDM record, and I was...
oh, EDM music. I didn't know you were into EDM.
I'm super into production and EDM. So I was working on this record, decided I wanted to make a music video for one of the songs, and I went nuts on this music video. I ended up building a replica of the Millennium Falcon cockpit in my studio.
Rebuilt the
Millennium Falcon cockpit by hand.
I did not know this
like
about you,
1,000 little washers that I spray painted silver, and then pieces of cardboard that I spray painted black, silver Sharpie around everything, like meticulously crafted. Like I was working 19-hour days for like 3 months.
So you're the Han Solo of this Millennium Falcon.
Well, if Han Solo built his own spaceship, then then yes.
So you're like advanced Han Solo, right? You got it.
I'm like the balder, uglier version of Han Solo. But yes, I built this cockpit, and then the video also involved 2 robots. One animatronic head that was programmed to sing the lyrics of the song, and then a 3D printed hexapod robot that was like fist pumping, and it was amazing and fun.
Which is what awesome. Robots should be doing.
That is what all robots should do. Yeah. If only that were the future of AI. But okay. So
you went all in. You went all in to make this music video.
I spent 10 grand.
Wow.
I maxed out 2 credit cards.
Wow.
I literally was working 19-hour days at the end of this to make this thing happen. And I had this horrible realization at the end of this video. We shot it, it worked, it was fun, it was awesome. But what I realized was I'm gonna post this video on my YouTube channel. This has been 3 months of my life. This has been over $10,000 of my
19
money.
hours a day.
19 hours a day. I'm gonna post it. It's gonna get 1 million views because that's what my videos would get when I'd upload them. People, community comments, people would be pumped. This is the best thing I ever made. And I was gonna make $150 in ad revenue from this video. And with all the other videos, I was kind of cool with it because whatever. I'm just making videos and I'm having a good time. But this one felt like, no, there's a gap here. There's a gap between like my impact in the world as a creative person, the people that I'm reaching, the energy, the acceptance and excitedness of the community. There's a gap between that and my fucking paycheck at the end of the month. And that was this kind of moment where I was like, I literally can't push the upload button unless I do something else and fix this. And that's when I started sketching out this idea for Patreon. And called up my freshman year roommate in college, who happened to be an engineer. Pitched him this idea that I'd kind of written out on 14 pieces of printer paper one Sunday afternoon in my kitchen. I sent him the drawings. He got super pumped about it. He built the whole thing by himself in about 2.5 months. And then I was the first creator to launch on Patreon in 2013 on May 7th. And within 2 weeks of launching my page, I was making 6 figures as an artist.
Within 2 weeks?
I didn't change my music. Like I didn't change my video. Like I didn't. All of that energy was there. That was what was special about it. It was like, it wasn't that my art changed. It was that we figured out the economics around the art.
It's because you're a cultural creator, so you had the content. The fact that you had 1 million views, or you were confident to get 1 million views in 2013, that's huge. So you had the fellowship. The fellowship came along with you, right?
Yes.
The audience.
Yeah.
But you were unable to monetize.
Yeah.
Right? And apparently YouTube and even like Huffington Post back in the day, right? The model was put that content out and you'll get opportunities. And you're like, no, I want to get paid for this content.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I've built this good content and I've built this loyal audience, I should get paid.
See, that's the thing is like what I want to do as a creative person is make media, right? That's what I want to do. I don't want to use my media as an advertisement for products. I don't want to fucking slap my logo on a hat and say, my videos are advertisements for my hats. Like, this is not what makes me special as a creative person. What makes me special is my ideas and my stories and my things that I make on YouTube and elsewhere. That's what I should be paid for.
Well, that's what you do for a living also.
Yes.
You spend 19 hours a day, you should get paid for it.
You should get paid for it.
And so what started off as an act of frustration and as an act to say, you know what, I'm worth something.
Yes.
I'm actually worth money. Perhaps not six figures, but maybe, something. You got six figures within 2 weeks. You fast forward 9 years, Patreon is now, how much is it worth now?
Patreon's last valuation was $4 billion.
All right, it's not bad. It's up and coming. $4 billion. Did you ever sit there? You ever take the DeLorean back in your mind to 2013, Jack, and sit there and go, "Oh yeah, this is going to be worth $4 billion." Like, does it just still blow your mind when you say that?
I knew that it would. I hoped that it would help a lot of creative people. That's what I wanted it to do, and I had a feeling it would send millions of dollars to creative people. And now it's sending over $100 million a month to creative people, but. I knew that it would send millions of dollars to creative people. I just had a feeling like the community is here, the art is here, like there's so many creative people online, they have so many fans. But I didn't realize the scope of it all, and I didn't think of myself as a founder or CEO. Like that was not. I was not that. I was a YouTuber.
You're a creator.
Yeah.
Who now has a company worth $4 billion that hopefully empowers and actually monetizes the work of all these other creators. Now, let's just step back for a second. I think people don't understand how this works. People assume, let's just say you're a musician, right? Mm-hmm. All right, musician, you came out with an album, you dropped the album, you're going to tour, you should be rich. Where's the breakdown here?
Yeah, the breakdown is in the equation that converts your art into dollars. That's the breakdown. And that equation has changed over the years. For many years, the equation was the unit economics around CD sales, right? In the last couple decades leading up to the turn of the century.
People don't buy CDs.
What's that?
People don't buy CDs.
People don't buy CDs anymore. But for a while, that actually was an economic model that kind of worked. Now, there were distribution problems associated with that. You needed to sign a distribution deal, and so you gave up a lot of the economics kind of in the chain of in the
studios.
Value chain. Yeah, and in the supply chain, to the studios, to the retailers, to the manufacturers. Like a lot of the value was lost there, and so the artists only took home a small portion of the economics. But like the point is, there was an economic model that converted. It's gross to think about it. Like it converted art into dollars for the people who made the art. But then when everything was digitized, in the first 2 decades of the the 2000s. The economics disappeared, right? Like society figured out distribution. We said, look, there's 7 billion people on the planet. 4 billion of them are now connected to each other. If you have ideas, just fucking say your ideas. And now you can reach everybody. But what that ignored was, wait a minute, ideas are not information. Yes, we want information to be free. But what about art? Art should not be free. Art should not be classified as information. But in this kind of, the first winners of the internet basically said, no, the internet should be free. We'll pay for it by making it a billboard. And then everybody who's on the internet will just pay with their attention. We'll pay with their...
The Napsters, but they're the ones that got paid, not the artists.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't even mean the Napsters. I mean the Googles and the Facebooks, right?
YouTube.
These
Apple,
iTunes. They're free to use for the consumer. And what that means is the consumer is getting a whole lot of value, which is great, but the artists are getting none. The artists are the ones making all the stuff, filling the web with all the stuff that we love to see and hear and read. They're what makes the internet worth it. Otherwise, the internet is a shell. And
there's lots of porn.
And there's a lot of porn. Right. But your question was like, hey, what is the breakdown?
Yeah.
And the breakdown is the equation. The breakdown is the economic model around basically art transitioning to a digital first experience and the big winners of the internet not keeping up with the economic implications of that.
Yeah, and for the artists, right, then they were told, okay, release the album. Now you got the album, now just spend your life touring. After you spend your life touring, you get some money back, maybe you're lucky, and maybe some big studio or a commercial will take the rights to your song. And then you do it all over again and pray to God that you get paid. You have a model, you call it the membership model. Why do you call Patreon a membership model?
It's a good question. And it's a new emerging category of economics for artists. And the category's thesis is essentially, there is a portion of your fans that don't just love the things you've made, they love what you're going to make, and they're willing to bet on that. They're going to bet on you in your future.
So it's brand loyalty.
They are loyal to you as a person. They believe in you as a person, and they want to be along for the ride. And everybody has 4 or 5 people that they feel like that about. I mean, I remember in 2010 when I was going crazy with EDM, like I loved Skrillex. I didn't just love everything Skrillex had done.
You were a Skrillex fan. That's a bold statement in 2022, sir.
I'm not ashamed of it. He's an amazing producer. He's an amazing sound designer. He's a meticulous craft person. I'm a Skrillex fanboy. Okay, but the point is, what is membership? Membership is a subscription payment in exchange for exclusive content and community. It's, I want to pay you for the things you've done and for the things you're going to do. And I want access to the things that you make. I want the extra stuff that you make that you're not putting out, online.
The special stuff.
Else. The special stuff. I want the behind the scenes stuff.
So if I'm paying this money, I should get something also as a consumer.
Yes, of course. Yeah, there's a real value exchange there, right? Like membership isn't asking for money. Membership is giving your fans extra value. Membership is saying, hey, I'm going to, in exchange for your subscription payment, you're going to get access to my exclusive Discord. You're going to get
access and content.
Access and content. And, well, community and content.
Okay. Oh, community. Okay.
And the community can be digital community, it can be physical community, it can be meetups. We have creators who are doing meetups with their patrons. So they do like a recording session live for 40 of their patrons who happen to be in Austin or San Francisco or wherever it is. And then there's creators who literally say like, look, you get my voice memos. Like when I was writing the song, you get to hear me actually writing the song for 3 minutes. Or you get the extra song that I didn't release. Or you get this remix of the song that I did that I'm not posting YouTube because I don't want to confuse the thing, but actually like you get the remix. So yeah, we see a lot of creators basically giving their members exclusive content and community experience.
Okay, so the dark side of this, maybe if there's a negative side to this, is the creator now has to do everything. You have to be your own publicist, you gotta be your own marketer, you gotta engage with your audience, you gotta give the content you're giving to the world, and you gotta do extra content. There's so many hours in the day. Isn't it exhausting? Sometimes people say, okay, I'm willing to give up 20% of my potential revenue to, say, one of these agents, record companies, if they do all of that, and I could just focus on the content. Now we're asking the creator to do everything. Isn't that also an extra burden?
These are really good questions. You're asking really good questions.
I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah.
I will pay you in Venmo.
Yes, this is a problem. This sucks. And I can tell you, as a creative person, it is a boatload of work. I have 2 bands. Both bands release weekly music videos.
That's absurd, by the way.
I release 100 music videos a year. It takes 40 people to do that. They're both media companies. Now, Pomplamoose and Scary Pockets
those are your companies.
Those are my bands.
Yeah.
They're bands. They're bands. They're companies now. The reason I call them companies is because we have employees, and they have 401k matching and health benefits. Like in order to keep up with the fucking content treadmill, we had to create companies that now output these music videos. Now they are music videos, and we are a band, and we look and smell like a band. And if people stumble on us online, they think, oh, Pomplamoose is a band, and we are. But to your point, it is a boatload of work to keep up with that and to put everything out. And a lot of creators don't want to do that. They don't want to learn the leadership skill set, the management skill set. They don't want to be delegating and hiring and drawing up job descriptions and all that. And here's what I would say to those creators. Don't worry about that shit. All of that is going to be solved over the next 2 decades, right? If you look at what happened to startups over the last couple decades, when Amazon came out, they had to build their own servers and data centers and all their own marketing automation tools. They literally had to build every component of the business from scratch. But then, over the last couple of years, 20 years, a lot of B2B SaaS companies came out with componentized versions of those products, right? So there's Zendesk, and there's Salesforce, and there's, you got your CRM in a box, you got your customer service tickets in a box. That same phenomenon over the next 2 decades will happen for small business creative media companies. So creators will have the hiring in a box. They'll have the team management in the box. They'll have the HR, the payroll, everything in a box. Now that's going to take a long time for society to build, but there are now hundreds of millions of creative people who need those services because they are fucking exhausted. And those services will exist over the next
So you think the industry that has created, that you have helped create, is going to create within this ecosystem where those needs are going to be filled eventually in the next, you say, 20 years, where then like an artist can say, listen, I'm exhausted. I hate doing accounting. I hate doing the Excel sheet. I'm not a manager. There's a reason why I'm an artist and didn't take business admin. I don't want to take business admin. I can outsource go to like, GoDaddy of my industry, and then they can do all the stuff there, and it's just a small portion of the cut. Will it be replicating the same, if you will, problems of the system that you are trying to get away from?
No, it won't be. And there's a couple reasons why. Over the last few years, especially, power is shifting away from institutions and toward individuals. That is a trend that I believe in. I think it will continue. Just look at the economics of artistry. Artists in the label days, were taking home 5%, 10%, and then the distributors were keeping 90%. Patreon takes 5% or 8%, and the artist keeps 92%, 95%, depending on the model they choose. It's literally flipped. So no, it's not replicating the problems of the past. It's shifting power and resources and money to the artists, to the creators. That trend will continue. That leverage for creative people will continue. Creators are powerful voices in society. We all know it. They're probably the most powerful cultural voices on the planet. They will eventually get the leverage and distribution and power and control that they deserve.
These institutions that you're talking about, oftentimes the reason why people are rebelling against it or ditching it is because they say the institutions have not helped us. The institutions have oppressed us, the institutions have manipulated us, the institutions have exploited us, and especially for artists, right? But you've seen this also in a democratic society. They're like, you tell us to have faith in these institutions, but the institutions haven't done much for me, so we're gonna go individual. The dark side of this aspect is there are individuals also now who are bad faith actors, who then game the system and then use it to put out, let's just say, dangerous content, hateful content. I'm not gonna name, but it's there. And so how do you, as creating this community, where do you then intervene and say Patreon is being used and abused by bad faith actors using this community to put out atrocious, hateful content?
It is a very hard problem and a very important problem, very near and dear problem to me. You're talking about the problem of content policy and trust and safety. These are emerging fields of critical importance, not just to the companies like Patreon and other technology companies, but critical importance to society.
Democracy.
Democracy. Geopolitical conflict. To be, speaking about the times here. But so how do we deal with it? I'll tell you our approach. It's a big problem. About 10% of our team is devoted to this problem by head count. In other words, if you look at all the members of Patreon, all the teammates in Patreon, 10% of those people are worrying about this problem. So it's a big investment, but I believe it should be a big investment because it scales with the company and it scales with the size of the problem. We use a combination of automated detection procedures. So we look for things, we have cues that are kind of machine learning and AI based. And then and we use services that use machine learning and AI kind of detection. And then when we find those things, they get surfaced to a human being. And only human beings make decisions. And this is a big distinguishing characteristic of how Patreon handles these issues versus how a lot of these bigger companies handle them.
Twitter, Facebook.
Yes.
Let's name it.
Automated decision making. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because we're talking about a person's income. We're talking about a creator who's relying on a paycheck that they need in order to make a living. False positives, we are intolerant of false positives. We will not take down a creator's page unless a human is making a decision and determines with 100% accuracy that this is a thing that we cannot support and distribute because it is hateful, it is harmful, it is hurting society, etc. That's a big thing that we do differently than other industries.
Can I say this? It's a tough situation for you to be in, right? Because you want to respect creators, the First Amendment, the right to expression. But I'll give you an example, hypothetical.
Yeah.
Within the white supremacist movement, you know that they love music. Heavy metal, especially hard rock, it's a galvanizing cultural force for white supremacist movements. They consider themselves cultural creators with a hateful message, right? So now you have to make a decision. A human has to make a decision. Jack and his team has to say, you know what? Patreon, my name's attached to it, terms and conditions. I'm a human being putting my values within this organization. Where is the line there where you say, okay, you're a creator, I respect you, I'm a creator, but you're a creator who's not going to use my platform to promote this?
So again, such a good question. And I would say the human makes the decision, but the human isn't making the decision based on their own values. The teammates at Patreon who work in trust and safety, by the way, shout out to teammates at Patreon who work in trust and safety. You have really hard jobs. They have really hard jobs.
Yeah.
They look at this stuff all day and make determinations. Very difficult job for people to have. To answer your question, the person doesn't make the decision based on their own values. The person makes the decision based on a very long content policy, the first draft of which I actually created in collaboration with someone else. It has obviously been iterated on since we created it. But it's a very long, very detailed document that reads more like a legal contract than it does like, it reads more like, terms of service. It's very specific. People say you can't define porn. Yes, you can. We have defined porn, and in more detail than I care to describe.
Yeah.
And we have defined the difference between porn and art in the way we consider it.
Right.
So anyway, all that to say, the person isn't making a decision based on what they think and feel. The person is making a decision about a piece of content and whether or not it violates Clause A, subgroup 1.4.
It's detailed. It's technical.
It's very detailed.
You've thought this out, and hopefully you've learned from the mistakes that we've seen with Facebook. It's not perfect. I gave you a tough question, I know, and it's a tough, especially where society is headed, America is headed right now. But the fact that you're thinking about it and the fact that you've actually put in the team to do this gives me some comfort. I could talk to you for a long time. I got 30 seconds left with you.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to ask you this question because I didn't know you're EDM guy. Right now, 2022, you're with Skrillex in 2013. What's the EDM talent that you think is going to blow up in 2022 and 2023?
Oh, God, what EDM talent's gonna blow up this? Well, okay, my preferences have shifted, and I'm less about the EDM movement, like that whole category of. I think there's a new. Okay, here's the beautiful thing about EDM. It's no longer just EDM. The traditions have blended into other groups, and like the things that I loved about EDM: sound design, synthesis, modular synthesis. Yeah. These practices and techniques are now being adopted by indie bands who don't sound like EDM, but they're stealing from those cultural movements and they're applying those techniques to their like sonic landscapes. I'll give you a band that I think is like next level. They're called Men I Trust. It's a Vancouver-based band. Beautiful bass lines, incredible harmony, dark, beautiful synth textures that are detail-oriented and fun and interesting. I think Men I Trust is gonna be huge.
Jack Conte trusts in Men I Trust. Thank you, sir. Thank you for stopping by the South by Southwest studio. You can watch all of our studio interviews on the South by Southwest TV app, available on Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, and Amazon Fire. These interviews are also available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/SXSW. And for a complete list of our interview schedule, check out SXSW.com/studio. I'm Ajat Ali, and thanks for tuning in. Thank you, sir.
Man,
that was fun.
Was that off the teleprompter?
Yeah.
You nailed that. Wow.